this video, we'll go over online administration for oral reading fluency. Here are some guidelines to use when students are taking fluency-based measures. Students can become frustrated when pushed too quickly through items. Conversely, students who are struggling can also become discouraged when stuck on difficult items. Furthermore, some tasks lend themselves to faster response rates, like letter naming fluency, while others average slower response rates due to cognitive load, like oral reading fluency. An examiner who is familiar with the student is the best position to determine whether he or she understands the task and is reasoning through an answer, or the student is struggling and should move on. In general, unless otherwise noted, wait about 3 to 5 seconds for an answer when appropriate in most situations. Examiners are encouraged to use professional judgment on a case-by-case basis. Here are some general rules. If a student clearly does not know an answer within a fluency measure, mark an item as incorrect and move to the next item after 3 to 5 seconds. If the student is sounding out or subvocalizing with oral reading fluency, mark the item as incorrect and move on after 10 seconds has elapsed with no correct response. More information on this can be found in the Administration and Scoring Guide. Here is some general information about oral reading fluency through aimsweb Plus. aimsweb Plus provides dedicated item sets exclusive for universal screening. The assessments are all graded to be of similar difficulty within each grade level set. All the measures are individually administered. There are multiple alternative forms for frequent progress monitoring. Now we will cover in more detail oral reading fluency. The 1-minute oral reading fluency measure is administered to students in first grade in the fall, winter, and spring, and in second grade and up fall, winter, and spring as well. This measure requires a student to read about 2 fictional texts. Each first grade story begins with the mostly decodable words and then progresses to the first grade level text. Examiners may use qualitative observations to further evaluate student scores. The student sees the 1-page story and reads as much of the story as possible within 1 minute. For benchmarking, a student reads 2 passages, and the mean number of words read correctly is documented within the report. To administer oral reading fluency, you will need the ORF printed test forms for students, and the administrator will need the ORF digital record form, which can be accessed on a computer or electronic tablet connected to the internet. The digital record form will contain standardized directions. A timer will be present in the upper right-hand corner of the measure, and when the timer expires, you will be prompted to pick the last word the student said. During the benchmark testing session, you will click the Next button to advance to the next story. After administering and scoring the second story, the results will appear on the screen and auto-populate to the reports. To administer this test, place the student test page in front of the student. You can ensure that the page is correct in the DRF by clicking the Preview button. Say, "When I say begin, start reading aloud at the top of this page. Read across the page. Try to read each word. Be sure to do your best reading. Are you ready? Begin." Click Begin on the digital record form when the student says or begins to sound out the first word. Record the student's responses by clicking incorrectly read words. At 1 minute, say stop. You will be prompted to select the last word the student read, make any necessary scoring adjustments, and then click Score and OK. When conducting benchmark testing sessions, click Next button to advance to the next story. Have the student turn to the second story page and say, "Let's try another one." Be sure to do your best reading. Are you ready? Begin. Click to begin the digital record form when the student says or begins to sound out the first word. Proceed as before. If a student does not score at least 10 correct words on the first of the 2 benchmark passages, the system will prompt and ask if you wish to administer the second measure. You can select either to discontinue the form or to proceed and administer the next story. If you select Discontinue Form, you will be confirming a pop-up to verify that you want to discontinue. Click OK to verify that you want to discontinue. The 1 score will then appear on reports rather than the average of the scores of the two forms. When administering oral reading fluency, there are things you'll need to keep in mind. Allow 3 to 5 seconds for students to respond before saying the word and marking it incorrect. You may give this corrective feedback as often as needed. No other feedback is permitted. Allow about 10 seconds for the students to sound out or to sub-vocalize before saying a word and marking it incorrect. Additional things: if a student skips a line, do not redirect or give any corrective feedback. This is different from many of the early literacy assessments. If a student reads 10 or fewer words in the first story, do not administer the second story. Click the pause icon in the upper right-hand corner and select Discontinued Form from the pop-up menu. The student's scores will reflect only the words read correctly on the first story. If a student self-corrects an incorrectly produced word within 3 seconds, record the response as correct. The student receives 1 point for each correctly read word. Do not penalize for the following things: self-corrections made within 3 seconds, repeated words, inserted words, regional dialects, or articulation problems. Words are considered incorrect if a word is skipped, any sounds in the word are mispronounced, a different word is substituted, a word is not read in the proper sequence, an abbreviation is read rather than the full word that is represented, the student self-corrects after 3 seconds has elapsed or has not attempted within 3 seconds. These are the administration and scoring rules for oral reading fluency.